It has been a long time since I picked up a Sunday newspaper, but today I felt like reliving an ancient ritual from the late 20th century. On a Sunday morning, you would not find me doing homework, you would not find me in church, unless I slept over at the house of a friend who had weird religious parents. No, you would find me disemboweling the Sunday edition to get to the comics section. Calvin and Hobbes was obviously the best, so I forced myself to save it for last. I would start with some of the heavy hitters, Garfield, Foxtrot, maybe glance at Doonesbury and not understand it at all, then leisurely consume the remaining pages. A few comics stood out by looking less cartoony and more old-fashioned. I still read them, but Mark Trail? What the hell is that? He's always beating up poachers and trying to tell me facts about beavers? Prince Valiant looks like it should be cool, but it's about history and shit, so never mind. I can smell educational content in disguise. Yeah, I know there's an NES game, don't try to distract me. Another dusty-ass looking strip I never got much out of was the Phantom. He's a masked hero who lives in the jungle and has jungly adventures. It just seems so stilted and lifeless compared to the Carl Barks Duck comics I loved, which also dated back to the 1940s. Comic strips like the Phantom felt like they were from and for an entirely different generation, which they were. Kids who grew up reading newspaper serials in the 40s and 50s still had nostalgia for those characters, and it reached critical mass in the early 90s when movie studios started cashing in with big screen adaptations. When Dick Tracy hit theaters in 1990, it was big. Not as big as Batman, but the floodgates were open for similar projects. There was The Rocketeer, a relatively recent comic book creation meant to emulate pre-World War II heroes, and there was The Shadow, reviving a character from 1930s pulp fiction and radio dramas. That got my attention because I was a fan of The Shadow. And all these years later, I still have a big fat-ass collection of the old radio shows on cassette. I do listen to these and relish that classic catchphrase every time I hear it.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
What I didn't know at the time is that there was a cash-in Super Nintendo game based on The Shadow.
Ooh, that's bad.
But the movie bombed so hard that the game was canceled.
That's good.
However, a nearly complete and playable ROM of the game is available online.
That's bad.
Although, if the game was never released, I really don't have to review it.
That's good.
But if I don't review it now, I never will. Yeah, we're doing this.
Can I go now?
I do know it's a generic beat-em-up, so I'm not going to play it all the way through. This is just a rare opportunity to experience a game that was never meant to see the light of day. It seems fine, if uninspired. It's one player only, you have the typical array of butt-kicking attacks, plus a few special moves, but the stages just go on and on. I've knocked out about 30 dudes so far, and the first level flatly refuses to end. Consider that this would have been a 1994 release, yet it's not even as good as the 1991 version of Final Fight on Super Nintendo. Ocean Software developed a ton of movie tie-in games, and I don't totally buy the story that The Shadow was canned strictly because of the film's poor performance. Lord knows Ocean had no problem greenlighting multiple Cool World games. Yeah, that NES version of Cool World, still on my to-do list. My point is, the early 90s revival of all these interwar, vaguely noir-flavored heroes was short-lived in popular culture, just another fad. That may be why, when the Phantom got his turn, they took things in a different direction.
In the year 2040, one hero fights to save our dying planet, the Phantom.
Nothing says 1994 like awkward CGI shoehorned into the title sequence of your animated series. But the lore of the Phantom actually works for a futuristic show because the alter ego gets passed from father to son over many generations, with Kit Walker portraying the 24th Phantom in the cartoon. I also like the juxtaposition of a character traditionally associated with the jungle being placed in the techno-hell city of Metropia. This is Phantom 2040. And this is Phantom 2040 on Super Nintendo. I've never played it before, but I've heard it described as one of the better licensed games on the system. And even with bullshit post-COVID price gouging, it's still only a $20 game. I did notice something strange in seeking a copy for this review, though. Casually browsing eBay over a period of weeks, time after time I found only cartridges with absolutely ravaged labels. Not just minor damage, they all look shredded to shit. It's not a rare game, so why is it so difficult to find a decent looking copy? Other than the sealed one some guy wants $10,000 for. My only clue is, I've read that Super Nintendo carts marked as made in Mexico have lower quality labels. I examined a few of my other games for comparison. Warlock looks fine, maybe some teeny scratches you can barely see on the top edge. Cutthroat Island has a little scuff here, but other than that, it's in good shape. So I can't definitively solve the case of the jacked up labels. If anything, it raises further questions like, why the fuck do I have a copy of Cutthroat Island? But that's a headache for another day. For now, let's focus on Phantom 2040. See, after all that, the cartridge is on camera for like 5 seconds. You don't even give a shit how it looks. But I do. The opening cutscene delivers a brief overview of how messed up things are in Metropia and introduces some of its major characters. The Phantom gazes down on it all and grimly announces, "Someone has to care." Far lamer than the Shadows catchphrase, I have to say. After pressing start, we see Kit, not yet disguised, showing a strange artifact to his professor at the university when robot soldiers suddenly open fire. Kit dons his tight purple costume, then we find ourselves on the overworld map. I feel like I'm playing Where's Waldo here. I can hover over different areas, but they all read no access. The lair, no access. Factory, no access. Spaceport, no access. Maybe highlight the areas somehow instead of making them all dark purple and only differentiated by text? Where the hell do I go? Oh, the university. Isn't that where I already am? After that demonstration of the Phantom's deft analytical skills, we can finally play the game, investigating the burning remains of the university lab. The controls are responsive and provide a high level of mobility. You can double tap the D-pad to run, shoot in any direction, Contra style, and your grappling hook feels immediately intuitive, which is good because you'll be using it frequently. The inventory screen shows all the items you'll acquire throughout the game, even though you start with only the grappling hook, or magnetic rope as it's properly called, a basic gun, and physical attacks in case you run out of ammo, which is the orange bar. Enemies drop plenty of ammo refills though, and I rarely ran low. Inside the lab, you find a few gates you can't open yet, foreshadowing the necessity of backtracking later in the game, and an injured scientist. He provides you with a key card and a lead to check out the warehouse district. Back on the map screen, quite a few areas are accessible now, not just the one we were told to explore. On a subsequent playthrough, you may know where to start collecting power-ups now that more areas are available. Since I'm playing for the first time, I'm going to follow the plot breadcrumbs. But let's check out the lair real quick. Every masked hero needs a lair, a no girls allowed secret hideout packed with gadgets. What's the point of being a superhero otherwise? Helping people, I guess? I'm just a very lair-motivated individual. There's not a lot to see at this point in the game though, mainly computer files about various characters and concepts. Now I'm about to look navigationally impaired for the second time because I don't know how to get out of my own lair. There's this huge passageway in the wall, but it's non-interactable. You can talk to your mentor, Guran, but all he says is, "What are you doing here? Go to the warehouse." I'm trying.
Some things the Phantom must learn on his own.
Exit to the left and you're in the ghost jungle. Fuck, I'm dead. Exit to the right and you're in the ghost jungle. This is almost enough to make me second guess the people claiming this is some overlooked, underappreciated game. Do you think Batman ever got lost? Trying to leave the Batcave? With an assist from the instruction manual, I now know the computer terminal has two distinct functions. On the right you access the database, and on the left you return to the map. Okay, maybe that's my fault, but this is a text-heavy game. So is it too much to ask to have some indication of fucking map and fucking files, and maybe a third monitor to watch the Bubsy cartoon? After that humiliation, I'm too shook for more random exploration, so I'm going directly to the warehouse as instructed. Like most sections of the game, your movements are vertical as much as horizontal, probing for breakable walls and terminals which unlock numbered doors when destroyed. Eventually you find Graft, one of the secondary villains. He hops into a giant mech for a pretty good looking multi-phase boss fight. You might die a few times learning his pattern, but once you blow off the stabbing arm, things get easier. He'll be back. Prior to the battle, the Phantom eavesdropped on Graft's video calls. To illustrate how much story is admirably crammed into this game, Graft called 3 different people about 3 separate plot threads. The main menu offers a toggle for either storyline complete or storyline summarized, and while I would never choose to castrate a game's narrative, the fact the option is available speaks to the complexity of the story. There is so much plot in Phantom 2040 that I won't be able to walk you through each in-game area and event, nor would you want me to. For a crash course on who's who and what's what in Metropia, check out a few episodes of the series. Watching the first 5 will give you a handle on the characters and rival factions. Some episodes are more self-contained, but the main thrust of the story is the Phantom's fight against Maximum Incorporated's efforts to subjugate the masses via resource extraction, media manipulation, and state-sponsored artificial intelligence. The design of the show is very unusual. The characters are angular, stretched-out weirdos, courtesy of the same artist who created Aeon Flux. Speaking as an angular, stretched-out weirdo myself, I don't love this style, but it does stand out. Combine that with wildly shifting POV shots, and you get a kid's cartoon that looked unlike any other.
That got his attention.
The game doesn't exactly follow the plot of the show, but it's broadly similar. Instead of conventional progression from one stage to the next, it's divided into 7 chapters, within which are opportunities for the player to decide where to go and which alliances to forge. This gives Phantom 2040 some replay value because you'll see different levels and fight different bosses at different times based on the choices you make. It also affects the ending. But the question of how many endings the game has represents another mystery. An even bigger one than why do its cartridges look like they lost a cat fight to a Real Housewives cast member, and how the fuck did I get trapped in my own garage? Promotional materials for the game specify 20 different endings, and in the years since, reviewers have repeated that claim without evidence. Silly me, I actually wanted to see them all, and I couldn't find them. That got me thinking. Chrono Trigger, an RPG requiring dozens of hours to beat, has, I think, 13 endings. And you're telling me Phantom 2040, an action game that'll take you maybe 6 hours to beat on a first attempt, has nearly twice as many? It doesn't add up. I had to find proof one way or another, and because 1990s problems require 1990s solutions, I consulted GameFAQs.com for answers. All credit to Ray from the Video Game Museum, the only person in the history of the internet to document the inner workings of Phantom 2040. So how many endings are there? There's definitely a good ending, and there's definitely a bad ending. Other than that, I don't know, because the game developers Taco Bell'd this shit. The Taco Bell theory of game design, invented by me right now, works like this. Say the Bell is launching a new product. Nothing from those guys is really that new. It's going to be another configuration of cheese, beans, and grade A raccoon meat crammed into a tortilla. Just make it a weird shape, and bam, new menu item. Phantom 2040 takes all the choices you made during the game, where you went, who you talked to, and from those stitches together individual scenes to give you a sort of customized ending. Put this scene in, take this one out, alter the descriptive text for this other one. With all these slightly varied combinations, it's hard to know exactly how many endings there are, because some differences are negligible. I see why, for advertising purposes, it was easier to just say there are 20 endings, but now you are among the select few to know the ultimate truth of Phantom 2040.
Some mysteries are better left unsolved.
Are there 50 Super Nintendo games better than this? Yeah, probably. Are there 100 better? I would say no. This deserves recognition as a not classic, but very strong game on the system. There are irritating things about the game, but they're mostly quality of life issues. Your energy doesn't refill between locations, and there's a long, complicated password system instead of a battery save. There are too many instant death pits considering you can't scroll the screen down to see what's below you. Enemies swarm like flies in the later areas, and there will be times when you don't know where to go in order to finish a chapter. But that's a trade-off I'm willing to accept in exchange for some freedom in exploring the game world. If you ask me to fill in this blank, you have to play Phantom 2040 because I don't have a great answer for you. There's no particular thing that it does demonstrably better than other games. I can recommend it for its solid gameplay and dark, compelling sci-fi story until my face is as purple as Kit's costume, but there's nothing revelatory I can say about it. And so, I expect Phantom 2040 on Super Nintendo to remain underrated. But I have a more urgent predicament at the moment because I don't know how to get out of here. I know there's a door behind me. Seems obvious, but it's non-interactable. I'll see you next time because I'm not going anywhere.
I asked you for the map.
Yeah, well, the map says we're fucked.